G'day friends, welcome to day 16 of MERMAY 2018. I've had a hectic day already and I just feel like it's going to get even more crazy. So please bear with me as I kind of ride out this caffeine high that I'm on and low-key stress about the rest of my day. Today I've got a very ultra mixed media piece, and today's background is actually brought to you in part by Steve Limones. So thank you, Steve, for popping in before you had to run off and for just adding some texture to my background. I like that this turned collaborative. The piece today I actually set out with every intention just to go full ham with mixed media, which is something that I achieved, so I'm really happy about that. There's of course things that I might have changed about it, things that I might have done differently, but ultimately I'm really happy with what I came up with, because it was exactly the experiment and the play that I needed to have to get a better understanding, not so much of mixed media, because I do look into a lot and I always play with lots of things, but the thing that I'm kind of curious about is I wanted to know how much texture, like how much of a piece I could get going and how many layers I could put in there, and you know, go a little bit overboard, but see if it was practical for me, because one of the biggest problems I have is that I don't want to set it all up. I don't want to pack it all away. I don't want to clean it up. I don't want to return to my desk and see it all sitting there. And I see all these beautiful workspaces on Instagram, and people have just, it looks like their whole room is covered in paint. Like they just dipped themselves in ink and just spun around. Like this is gorgeous creative spaces that are just, that lend themselves to all of this, I think hectic mess is kind of what I see it as. And believe me, I'm by no stretch of the imagination, I'm not some neat freak, I'm not anal about the room, like it is what it is, Santa. But my theory is, like, could I get into it? Could I be creating these types of layered and textural pieces that I see with people doing, you know, gessos and texture pastes and modeling pastes and flow mediums and you know, collage papers and bits and pieces, all of this stuff that people use to make these gorgeously textured pieces. Could I get into that? Could I kind of replicate that in my own very simplified way, in the sense that whatever I had at my desk wasn't a lot and I wasn't making the biggest mess in the world? And it was my first kind of experiment with that today, and I think I kind of did it in a way that I thought would be helpful. First of all, I taped my little paper down to a chipboard backing, which is actually just the backing of a Fabriano paper pad. So that for me automatically gives me a workspace and a palette off to the side, which I enjoy. Now I know eventually I'd have to replace that, or I could just keep working on top of the other acrylic that's down there, because you know, once it's hardened, it's essentially plastic, so I could just work on top of that. It might get a little bumpy, but you know, it's off to the side and it's a palette, so I don't really care. Especially if I'm going to be doing pieces like this. I've got my heat tool, which is always kind of around. I kind of really went extra on that the white acrylic on there, because I wanted it to bubble. I knew that if I melted it, it would start bubbling. I thought that would be its own layer of texture. So if you're curious to add some texture in like that, you can bubble the acrylic. It is plastic after all, so if you heat it enough, it will start to melt. I've also got just my bucket of pens, my little tin of pens off to the side, and my paints that I've been using are just all the little paint pots from Target, the little $2 ones. So it made me think, why don't I pull out my gesso? Like, why did I use the white acrylic instead of the gesso? Because it was convenient, right? Like, it was just sitting on the top of my craft cart, my Rascog. The thing is, gesso isn't formulated too differently than white matte acrylic. So if you've got white matte acrylic, you probably just don't need gesso as long as the coverage is good. So essentially it's the same thing, and I'd use whatever I could grab. The gesso that I do have is a big bottle, and it sits at the bottom of my cart. So when I'm more likely to go grab something, I'll grab something from the top if I can. And the top had the white acrylic, so guess what I'm probably going to reach for every time I want to use gesso? That white acrylic. So that just made me think, like, is there other stuff in this craft cart that I haven't been reaching for, or that I don't use in the way that it's intended, or that is just too cumbersome to have at my desk and I don't use it because of that? Like, or the ergonomics of something is just not working for me. Like, I will always use the watercolor from half pans. I will never extrude them from the tube, unless to fill another half pan, because I liked working with the dried out watercolors. I like to rehydrate them myself. I like to use them from the pans. I get to see all the colors in front of me. I don't have to worry about finding a palette. I don't have to worry about seeing if I've got the right amount. And you know, even something as simple as that, like, I've realized that I've got these beautiful tubes of paint that I'm probably never going to get to unless I run out of a half pan. So things like that, I think what you want to keep in mind when you want to inform your spending habits, it's even like having my pens. I used to have all my pens in a pencil case. Now, that meant that I would only grab the ones that were right at the front. Even if I knew there was another better pen in there, I would grab the ones that were most convenient. And because I'm not this is already what I'm into. When I'm in this creative space, I don't want to have to like add anything to the mix. I just want the convenience of grabbing what I need to grab or what I want to grab when I want to grab it. And a lot of the time, if you're working intuitively, you're just more likely to grab whatever's around you. So even setting your desk up with your favorite things around you, or if you've just bought something new, having it at your desk, you're more inclined to use it because it's right in front of you. You can see it, it's in front of your eyes, you're more inclined to grab it because it's within reach. So my challenge to you, I guess, my task for you, if you're looking for a bit of homework for no reason, just look at the stuff around you in your creative space and see how it's set up. Are you less inclined to try something because it seems like it's too much of a setup? Or is there something that you've put away in a drawer that you used to really love using, but you just don't reach for anymore because it's always put away? Or is there something that, you know, I have these Tim Holtz distress crayons, and they're great, and I really actually enjoy using them, but they're in these little tins, they're in these little planter pots that I have on the second level of my back craft cart, the one at the front and then the one at the back, and I have to make an effort to get them out, and it's just, it is what it is. Like I can't change, I could change my setup, and maybe I'll have a think about it, but you know, I don't have one of those studios that you see on Instagram where I do have a dedicated space, but you know, it's also a room, a carpeted room in an apartment that we rent. Like, I'm not going to go and fling paint everywhere. I don't have a big old drop cloth at the floor because, you know, I just don't. Maybe that's a good idea. But it's just one of those things, you know, I've been building this studio as I go. I've been building the creative space to suit my needs as I need it. And just being on this MERMAY project and trying tons of different things, it's made me realize, like, wow, I keep reaching for the same thing. Or if something is within reach, it's more likely to get used than something else. So I've been trying to switch it up a little bit and grab different things, even if stuff's in the packaging. I have those little Tim Holtz mini distress blenders, you know, the little foam blenders on the thing. I literally never use them because they're in the packet. So why bother having things if you're not going to use them, unless you're a collector, and by all means collect. But yeah, I just want you to think about some of that stuff if that's kind of hindering you from trying things that you think you might want to be trying. Like for me, I really wanted to have a go at this like fully textured piece with lots going on, and you know, a very simplified illustration. I really do like how this turned out. It's a little bit hectic, but in real life, I think you can see all the textures and layers. It's actually really interesting. I don't know how well I translated that to Instagram, but you know, Instagram isn't 3D, so I don't know what my options were at that point. But yeah, I think it's one of those things that, like, set yourself up for a bit of success if you feel like you're more inclined to try something else. And if you've already got one of those workspaces that is working for you, maybe share some of your tips with people, because I know that's something that I'm only just starting to think about now and maybe could have benefited from like maybe a year ago, who knows. But yeah, so also thinking of the ergonomics of how some of your stuff works, like the different paint pots that you buy. Like, I'm not going to buy big paint tubes because I will never reach for them, but I do like having these little paint pots from Target because they're inexpensive, so I don't feel guilty for using a lot, but also they're tiny. I can have a lot of them at my desk at once, so I can really build a color palette to use while I'm playing. The Dilutions paint pots are really great because it's a wide surface area, so you can dip bigger brushes in there, or you can scoop them out, or you can dip your blending tool in there straight from the pot. You don't have to worry about you know, putting it on a palette or anything. They're also really beautiful paints, but I've also noticed other things like Dilution sprays. I don't ever use them as a spray. Like today was the first time, and even Steve did that spray, so I don't even think it was me. But the sprays I will use for the ink, I will dip my brush in there, or like Diane does, you fill up a water brush, one of those Tim Holtz detailer brushes, which are fabulous. You fill up one of those with ink and make your own ink brushes. Now, I don't ever use them as a spray, so to me it's like, do I keep buying the Dilutions ink, or do I just buy a little ink in one of those little glass bottles and use that because I could dip my brush straight into it? Or do I just buy a little glass bottle and decant those inks the dilutions ones into a tub that I'm more likely to use. So just thinking about how things work and the way you work with them, we're all going to be different, so I can't suggest one thing that might work for you definitively, but just have a think about it, because more than likely you're already aware of what you're doing, and maybe it's just one of those thought processes you need to have, like I did. So definitely things to take into the future for me and things to think about. Today's piece I'm super happy with. Did I tell you about the washi tapes already? I'm so confused if I've already said that. I have a restock of the washi tapes tomorrow. The link to my Etsy is down below. 12 noon Pacific Standard Time, so California time, whatever that means to you. I will have the 5 washi tapes that I've already released. I'll have 2 new ones as well. Later on Instagram today, probably after this actually, I'm going to reveal the names of those tapes and give you a look at those. So check out my Insta story if you're curioso. And I can't wait. I'm super excited to unroll them. I haven't actually unrolled the 2 new ones yet, so I don't know what they look like in real life. Maybe I'll regret saying this on and I won't end up posting them. No, I'm sure they're fine. I love the quality of those tapes ever since my first batch. I don't know what reprint we're on right now, but there's a lot. So let me get, I'll just say this much. If you miss out, please don't stress. I will always have restocks as I can afford to restock it. For those of you who don't know, I don't work with a company. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I literally am just one person spending my personal money on buying this stuff. It's not personal anymore. It is business, revolving capital, you know, all the good business terms. But, you know, when I first started this business, I had $150 to spend on products, and whatever I could turn into a profit, I would reinvest into the business. So I've been doing that for well over a year now, and it's resulted in me being able to like stock lots of stuff, which is really great, but I'm still not a multi-millionaire where I can stock everything all the time. So I'll just ask for your patience. If you do miss out, I will definitely restock as I can afford to buy the new stock. And yeah, and I think it's one of those things, like, not that I can't afford it, but sometimes I reallocate funds to other things. So I don't want to spend I don't want to restock 3 months worth of washi tape and then have no other products come out. I'll restock like maybe a month's worth of washi tape so that I can have stamps come out the next month. So something like that, maybe to think about if you're one of those people that keeps missing out and is just really mad at me. First of all, I'm sorry, but second of all, that's kind of the reason why I stagger different releases, because I just, you know, I have money to reinvest in the business now, which is such a blessing, but I also don't have a lot. So you got to be smart about it, don't you? I'm going to leave it at that. I will stock the washi tapes. Go check my Insta story if you want to. Let me know if you are one of those people that have tips about how to set up your space or how to use things in a better or more ergonomical way for yourself that definitely helped you be more creative. I'm curious to know if there's other things that I could be trying, because, you know, forever in the pursuit of more creativity. It's just how I feel. Thanks for watching today, everyone. Until tomorrow, I will be back soon. I really want to do a Sketchflix episode, so maybe we'll see if we can make that happen today as well. Not quite sure. Got so much to do. Bye.